So you're in Calvin PCA. You had met a man, an elder, who had asked you was any questions, and you'd asked for the Westminster Confession of Faith, and you were overwhelmed when he said, "That's our doctrinal creed."
Mm-hmm.
So how long were you in Calvin PCA, and what were the steps then towards the ministry?
I was there a year probably altogether, maybe just over a year. And while I was there, after about 3 months is when I had met with the session and indicated my desire to pursue ministry.
Uh-huh.
And of course I didn't know all the mechanics of how that was done, but they did bring me to a presbytery meeting and they talked to me about it. And because I wasn't really aware of what was going on, not familiar with everything, as I look back on it, I think I was actually taken under care there, but I didn't realize that.
Right.
Yeah. Because in Calvin PCA, I know that the pastor allowed me to read the scripture during a service one time, so I'm assuming that I must have been under care and that they were talking about pursuing ministry and where I would attend seminary. So another thing that was very interesting at that time was the minister of Calvin PCA was a student of John H. Gerstner's. So the PCA at that time in late 80s, this has been 1990, 91, PCA was divided between, Reformed and TRs, truly Reformed.
Correct.
And this minister was a TR, and he was under John H. Gerstner. So he arranged to have a seminar with John H. Gerstner come to preach.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited about that because I was discovered Ligonier Ministry and R.C. Sproul, and I would, going to university, I would be ordering these tapes, and I was working at a frame shop, picture framing, and so I was paying my way through university, and then if I could scrape together some more money, then I would be buying a set of tapes from R.C. Sproul. Do you remember those?
Yep,
That are in the
absolutely.
plastic thing? And I would get them and put them in my car, and I would do it, and it was, I don't know how to say it, it was just like, it's so exciting going through the catalog and thinking, what's my next tape purchase going to be, And so I listened to a lot of those, listened to Gerstner, and he arranged them to have Gerstner come, and I was so excited about that, and he asked me if I would come to the airport to pick him up from the airport, and I was like, yeah, that would be amazing. I went to the airport, and I remember Gerstner coming off the gangway and walking toward the airport, and he was just all smiles. I mean, Gerstner was like a giant man living in life, and when he came in and he said hi to the pastor, he was very warm welcome, hi, and then the minister of Calvin PCA said, and by the way, this is Scott Wilkinson, he's a young, and before he even could say anything, all I can remember is that Gerstner saying, well, how are you? It's like slapping me up and just giving me hugs and everything, and I thought, wow, this is great. And then we went into the car, and I was in the back seat of the car, and I was up asking him questions, and they were talking, of course, about how things have been going. And we went to his hotel room, and he sat down in the hotel room, and I asked him a question about apologetics, an apologetic question about how does one really know, though, that God exists? I mean, the sense of God's existence. How does really one know? And again, Gerstner leaves out and goes, because you got legs, you got arms, you got... It was really fun. But that was an example of just... things that I look back on and didn't realize.
Was that the end of the Gerstner stories?
That's the end of the Gerstner.
Because I didn't want to.
No more of that. Yeah, but I look back on those things and think, wow, I had amazing privileges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. So then at Calvin PCA, they gave me a charge over a Sabbath school class of young people, and we started teaching, and that's when I discovered that Calvin PCA had somewhat of a relationship with the Phoenix RP Church.
Oh.
And so they were going to get together to have a joint service together. And I was excited about that. And I said, now, why is it that we're separate? You know, we're the PCA and they're the RPCNA.
Yes.
Why are we separate? And one of the young people said, well, they sing only the Psalms. And I said, and so why don't we do that? And the answer was, because the tunes are so bad in that Psalter, in their songbook, I think is what they said. And I immediately realized, to me, that was the worst reason possible.
Yeah.
I just thought, this is something I need to understand. If that's the reason why we're not doing it, then I want to explore this more.
Mm-hmm. Did you think your background as a musician played into your thinking there at all, or is it just that's just not a good reason for not doing something?
Maybe it did. I wasn't consciously aware of it at the time, but yeah, I can't say.
Yeah.
But so I started looking into that, the whole idea of psalm singing, but I didn't really have any resources about it. I'd asked the minister about it, and he gave all the standard arguments for him singing, and which at the time kind of satisfied me for a while. As a matter of fact, I was in the choir at the church, and would go to the choir practice and sing along, and so it just was something that never occurred to me. Well, then it came time to my university finished, and it was time for university, and I decided to attend the RP seminary in Pittsburgh. And I have to say the only reason why was financial, because at the time you could go with free tuition if you stayed at the building and you helped clean up the grounds, and if then you'd have a lesser tuition, I think, if you stayed at the.
It's compensated.
Yeah, something like that. That was, I think, taken off your whatever you're paying for that.
Yeah, because you were working. The upkeep of the grounds, and that was a cost to them. So you did that, and so that there was a compensation towards your fees for that.
Yeah, that's right. So when I went for summer Greek, and we were there, and they had, the seminary library was just wonderful, and so at that time I decided I had all this time, because I was just there alone in the seminary building for summer Greek. I started looking into exclusive psalmody, and I just became convinced of it. I could not see why this isn't the case. It just made so much sense to me. So that's when I had to inform my session that I think I might need to transfer my membership into the RP church, because they're an exclusive psalm singing church.
How did they receive that?
That's a good question. I called the minister of that church about 6 years into my ministry and apologized to him. Because I said, looking back now as a minister, if I were in your shoes, I would have been so upset and hurt by what I did. Because at the time, I just thought, no one should have a problem with this. I've come to a different convention. I'm going to move over here and everything. Not thinking about the investment that those men had put into me. And I didn't even take real time to talk to them about it. I just was more informing them that I'm going over here, and we're all Christians, we love one another, they're going to be happy about that. But now I look back at how, like, the conversation that we had on the phone as I was talking to them, and now I can listen to that conversation back then and say, they were upset and they were angry. And, so that's why I called later and asked Amanda to forgive me for that. So
it's always hard when you're at that stage in life at a relatively young age, because that's how you do process it. You just think, well, I've taken this step, they'll understand, this is the way it is. And it's not always the way it's understood.
No, and I think too that you know, in doing church planting as well, like our work here, there's such a rotation. People come and people
That's right.
go, and people, and I suppose it's been helpful to realize that, you know, look, people don't think in these terms, and you need to be gracious and realize that's where you were, you
That's
know,
right.
and they're not meaning to hurt
No.
you. They're not meaning to, and so you just kind of let them go.
I always say you should part with grace and love.
And
Because you never know when paths may cross again.
yeah, that's right.
So,
That's right.
well, again, that has been a good time. I really enjoyed that. Mentioning grace and love. I just want to do this one more time.